suggestion.
Well, they just
Today's ceremony will begin in 5 minutes. Flyover Dr. Daniel Van Buskirk in a yellow 1942 Boeing Stearman. Dr. Van Buskirk is a dentist practicing in Bismarck. His aircraft approached from the southwest and flew at 500 feet. Please feel free to step up in any open bleachers and seats if available.
On it to get them. Oh, I didn't hear.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody can hear me all right. On behalf of General L. Dorman, the North Dakota National Guard Adjutant General, and the staff of the North Dakota Veterans Cemetery, welcome to these hallowed grounds. I'm Command Sergeant Major Eric Binstock, the Senior Enlisted Leader of the North Dakota National Guard, and it's my honor to serve as your MC. Thank you for attending today's ceremony. The music you heard was performed by the North Dakota Army National Guard's 188th Army Band Full Battle Rattle Brass Quintet. Today, of the American patriots who gave their lives in defense of our all these deceased restrooms behind the chapel. Handicapped restrooms are available inside the building. If you need medical attention during the ceremony, please go to the Metro Area Ambulance, located by the Interment Center building. Thank you, Metro Area Ambulance, and thank you, Red Cross and Salvation Army. If you look behind me to the southeast, you will see two UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters approaching. They will pass over the cemetery at approximately 1,000 feet above ground level. The Black Hawk aircraft is ideally suited for logistics and missions in support of Homeland Security, emergency response, medical evacuations, and war zone support. These the tragic attacks of September 11th and assets have been deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, Kosovo, Bosnia, Djibouti, Canada, and within our borders in support of our nation's war on terrorism. Together, our National Guard Army aviation units have logged over 143,970 hours of accident-free flying, a great record of safety dating back to 1958. Today's crews were in the lead aircraft, Mission Commander and Pilot, Chief Warrant Officer 3, Dave Kilber, Pilot, Warrant Officer Greg Schaff, Crew Chiefs First Sergeant Monty Wien, Crew Chief Staff Sergeant Rob Carview. In the trail aircraft, Pilot in Command was Chief Warrant Officer 3, Brent Fries, Pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Jason McEvers, Crew Chiefs Sergeant Nicole Monteith. Handling all operations is Specialist Holly Ruby. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please stand for the posting of the colors, and please remain standing for the national anthem and Memorial Day prayer. Color Guard commanders, post your colors. We are very proud of our veterans organizations and their auxiliaries for their contributions to our communities. Though no longer in active military service, these men and women continue to serve a grateful nation through their support of our troops, fellow veterans, our military families, and the fallen. In addition to their community service, many of these veterans assist in rendered military honors during funerals. We are also very proud of the spirit of uniformed service in our Native American communities, whose per capita service in the military is the highest among any ethnic group in the nation. Veterans organizations participating in today's ceremony include American Legion, Lloyd Spetz, Post 1, Bismarck, American Legion, Gilbert S. Furness, Post 40, and Veterans of Foreign Wars Harry L. Kidd, Post 707, Mandan. American Legion Albert Grass, Post 173, 48. American Legion Matthew American Horse, Post 259, Cannibal. AMVETS, Post 9, Bismarck. Bismarck Mandan, 4th Degree Knights of Columbus. Dakota Leathernecks Detachment. Disabled American Veterans, Post 3, Bismarck. Standing Rock Vietnam Veterans Association. Veterans of Foreign Wars Gilbert N. Nelson, Post 1326, Bismarck. Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 9061, and Ladies Auxiliary, Berthold N. Mandaree. Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 150, Bismarck. Veterans of Foreign Wars, Boy Scout Troop 1326. Performing the national anthem is Miss Kayla Wolf. During the national anthem, it is appropriate for military personnel and veterans to render a hand salute. Civilians are encouraged to place their right hand over their heart and remove hats. Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Kayla. Our opening prayer will be offered by Pastor Dave Swanger, House of Prayer, Lutheran Church, Bismarck.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bow your heads in reverence as we pray. For all the men and women of our armed forces, those who wish never needed to be done, on land, at sea, in the air, to do their duty, defending the freedoms we enjoy and to win the same for others. Gracious God, you taught us through the life and death of our Lord Jesus Christ that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for another. Our honored dead gave the most precious gift they had for loved ones and neighbors, for friends in arms, for their country, for us. Holy God, may we never forget all who have paid such a price. And though their names may fade with the passing generations, help us all to live in a manner worthy of their sacrifice, continuing the work of ensuring a lasting peace for all. It is in the name of the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ our Lord, that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Swanger. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, I would like to recognize our special guests attending today's ceremony. As we have quite a few number of dignitaries, it is appropriate to hold your applause until all Governor Doug Brown and Dakota's First Lady Catherine Helgas Burgum, Senator John, State Senator Dick, Army Reserve Ambassador, retired Command Sergeant Major David Becker, retired Vice Admiral Phil Wisecup, retired Major General Mike Haugen and Mrs. Jan Haugen, retired Major General Robert Schulte and Miss Uella Schulte, retired Air Force Colonel Vern Huber and his friend Alice, please give them all a round of applause. I'd like to thank all the folks that help ensure this annual ceremony is successful. The cemetery staff and the Army of Volunteers from the North Dakota National Guard that direct traffic and park cars, install bleachers and place chairs, as well as the volunteers that decorated 6,700 graves with small U.S. flags early this morning. Please be sure to take a moment to thank them if you have the opportunity. I'd like to encourage veterans to check out the Bismarck Vet Center van parked behind the building. The Vet Center provides free justice counseling for victims of military sexual trauma and bereavement counseling for families of troops killed on active duty. So be sure to check them out when you get a chance. It is great to see all of our veterans organizations and auxiliaries and other color bearer groups like the Knights of Columbus and Boy Scouts of America. Their presence add great value to our ceremony. Let us recognize everyone participating in today's ceremony, to include the patriots that participated in the motorcycle honor run, with a round of applause. The Motorcycle Honor Run was organized and led by Vietnam Vets, Legacy Vets Motorcycle Club. Almost 700 motorcycles are riding today. After today's ceremony, Fort Abraham Lincoln State Park is offering free admission and free guided tours for military members and veterans in honor of Military Appreciation Day. Consider visiting this historic site. While you are here today at the Veterans Cemetery, I invite you to check out the 164th Regiment Memorial. And I also encourage you to visit the beautiful Prisoner of War Missing in Action Memorial beside it. It too is a constant reminder we will never forget our prisoners of war and missing in action servicemen and women. Off to my right, there's a future site of the Columbarium. It is an above-ground burial site for cremations. It will hold up to 1,800 niches. A rendering is located inside the chapel for your observation. This year's National Military Theme is in cooperation with the Department of Defense and the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration. Created under the 2008 National Defense Authorization Act and launched in 2012, the program was designed to thank and honor Vietnam veterans and their families. The commemoration officially runs from Memorial Day 2012 through Veterans Day 2025. Additionally, the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017 designates every March 29th as the National Vietnam Veterans Day. Today's theme, Vietnam 50 Years Remembered, is in honor of those who fell during the Vietnam War and those who served but are now deceased. We also recognize those that safely returned but succumbed to the invisible wounds of war. To learn more about the Vietnam commemoration, use the search words Vietnam and 50 on the internet. This year is also the 75th anniversary of D-Day landing at Normandy. Extending today welcoming remarks is the Governor of the great state of North Dakota, Doug Burgum.
Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Binstock. Today is a solemn day. It's a day of remembrance, but it's also a day of inspiration. It's inspiration knowing that today we are here honoring those servicemen and women who over the for our country. The roots of this sacrifice began over 244 years ago. The Battle of Concord and Lexington, often described as a shot heard around the world. But citizens, farmers, shop owners picked up arms to defend their freedoms. And that began a tradition which became America. America stands for ideas of democracy and freedom like no other country in the world. We have rights here, the right to vote, the right to assemble, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, that others in other parts of the world have never experienced. But we have that because of the sacrifice that people have made, and we're here today to honor those people. And we're I'm grateful for all of you, because without fail, every year here in North Dakota, thousands of friends and family members and many, many veterans show up, rain or shine, regardless of the weather, to reflect the sacrifices made by those members of our armed services. It truly reveals the values that we as North Dakotans hold dear and that North Dakotans place on the duty and service of military service. So on behalf of the First Lady, Catherine, Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford, myself, I want to thank you for the honor to serve all of you, and I want to thank you for the honor to speak here today. I also want to thank Senator John Hoeven and Mikey for their great friendship and support and everything that he's doing, both as governor and in Washington, D.C. to fight for military affairs and our veterans. And I also want to thank Major General Alan Dorman, who's doing a fantastic job leading the North Dakota National Guard. North Dakota veterans have served all over the world, all the way back to the Spanish-American Civil War, the Rough Riders, from Iwo Jima to Normandy, the war in Korea, the War on Terror, from Baghdad to our backyard. And I know that there's a few World War II veterans that are still around. My dad had the opportunity to serve in World War II, and we have many others. And Memorial Day is a time to set aside to pay tribute to those who lost their lives. And today we especially want to bring attention to today to honor those that served in the Vietnam War. We've got a number of people that are here that served in Vietnam. Just 2 months ago on March 29th, I had the honor of signing the proclamation, Veterans Day proclamation. We had a ceremony at the Capitol, and it recognized the passage of 46 years since the last U.S. troops officially departed from South Vietnam. But Vietnam Veterans Day has been a day that's been recognized in North Dakota since 2009, when the 61st legislature made it a state holiday. And they did so in recognition of the 2.7 million Americans, including over 15,000 North Dakotans who served during the Vietnam War. And during that war, 150,000 servicemen and women were wounded. More than 58,000 lost their lives. And our state suffered the loss of 128 North Dakotans. And they weren't just a statistic. They were sons, they were brothers, they were husbands, they were friends, they were cousins, they were nephews. Each one of them left home faithfully and honorably to serve our nation, and their service and sacrifice is not forgotten. One of those literally hit close to home for me because I was in elementary school in Arthur, North Dakota, and class behind me was Kevin Frost. And the news came in December 1968 that his older brother, John Frost, had been killed in Vietnam. John Frost, like many of those that served, was just another Class B kid. He played basketball, he played football, he played baseball. He was on student council, in theater. And he's a great kid. When his grandmother was sick, he took care of her. And his mother, Lois, remembers, the time that he scored 33 points in a basketball game in a winning effort. He was the oldest of three. But John Raphael Frost didn't come back. I remember when I was older and on one of my first trips to Washington, D.C., we went to the Vietnam Veterans Wall and walked down, and we looked for the name of that hero from our hometown. And we must also remember that, many that haven't made it home yet. 82,000 Americans are still missing from World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, the Cold War, the Gulf Wars. And there are 365 North Dakotans who remain unaccounted for. This month, thanks to the great efforts of our North Dakota legislators and veterans group, we raised in front of the Capitol for the first time the POW MIA flag, and it'll remain there permanently. It was such an honor to be there, and part of that honor was to meet the individual that raised the flag that day, Vern Huber from Mandan. Vern was a Korean War vet, Air Force pilot, shot down 16 months in both North Korean and Chinese prisoner of war camps. And unbelievably, through that journey, Vern is here today. Vern, could you please stand? Thank you for your service. And while we can never repay those members of the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the Marine Corps for giving the ultimate sacrifice, there's something we can do, and we can always remember. And we can pay tribute like we do today through these kinds of memorial events. We can support our local veteran groups. We can support the families of fallen service members, those Gold Star family members that are here today. Or we can just actively participate in democracy, the very thing that these men and women gave their lives for. But we can do all of this, but we can also do more, and we have done more. The legislature this year took a number of important actions. For the first time, passing legislation that here in North Dakota will be exempt from state income tax. Many other states had this, and we did not. And when those individuals passed, not only the retired military personnel, but for their surviving spouses. We also passed legislation. The legislature took leadership on this, providing funds to defray the costs of burying spouses and dependents of our military veterans right here at the state's Veterans Cemetery, so they can be long. I thought it appropriate to close with a quote from Abraham Lincoln, since we're so close to Fort Abraham Lincoln, right here in North Dakota. But in the Gettysburg Address, he said, as he stood there on that hallowed ground, he said, "It is for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work for which they fought, and thus far so nobly advanced." He also said, "But a great task remains before us." And what is that great task? That great task is for America to lead, for America to build a world where we no longer have to have conflict, where we send our sons and daughters to die. But that task may take 100 years or 1,000 years. And until that happens, as long as there's tyranny and evil on this planet, it will take the brave acts of Americans to help bring peace to the world. And it is our duty to ensure that each of the next generations across that 100 years or 1,000 years understands and carries on that sense of gratitude and that duty of public service. That's the difference between an America in decline and an America that shines like a beacon of freedom. So I want to thank you, because by your presence here today, you are passing that on to our next generation. Your duty, your vigilance, your service, your support, and your attendance today all make a difference. So thank you to all the volunteers and sponsors that ensured that these hallowed grounds are so beautifully maintained and they're worthy of the heroes that are buried here. And I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering. God bless you. God bless North Dakota. God bless our fallen service members and their families. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Burgum. Our next speaker is Senator John Hoeven.
Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Bidstock. I appreciate it very much. It's good to be here with you. Of course, General Dorman, good to be here with you. General Palmer, Governor Burgum, thank you. Thank you for your remarks today. More importantly, thank you for your service to the state of North Dakota. Mikey couldn't be here with me today, but she wanted me to extend her best wishes to all of you, her affection and her love as well, and to express, not only on behalf of myself, but on behalf of her, our gratitude, our appreciation, our admiration for your commitment and for your service. And of course, that's what this Memorial Day is all about. I want to thank all the veterans groups and all the auxiliaries. We had a ceremony this morning at the Heritage Center. They did their usual fantastic job. And I want to thank the National Guard, our North Dakota National Guard, for hosting this event here at our State Veterans Cemetery. There are 50 National Guards. They are all outstanding, but without question, the absolute best is the North Dakota National Guard, without question. Having served 10 years as governor, I know, because whenever we needed anything, whether it was here at home or overseas, we called the National Guard, our Air Guard and Army Guard, and they always answered the call. And there wasn't always a manual as to how to do it. They just figured it out and got it done. I'll never forget the day where we loaded up, we had those two Blackhawks with the flyover at the start of the ceremony. I'll never forget the day where we had, I think, 5 Blackhawks and a number of other helicopters. And on a huge ice jam out on the Missouri River over here, and they blew it up so that the city of Bismarck and Mandan didn't flood. There was no manual how to do that. And it was amazing. It was fun too, actually. They just did it. Time and time and time and time again. When we needed help, they stepped up. We thank them for that. I see all these riders over here, whether it's the Patriot Guard, whether it's the Legion Riders, Freedom Riders, Vietnam Veterans, Motorcycle Club, all of them. And I'll tell you what, as we went through this war and terror and lost some of our finest, they were there. Could be raining, could be snowing, whatever. They were there at the funeral. And when people showed up who were there protesting, if you can believe it, they formed a human barricade between our fallen heroes and some of those people that showed up. And whether it was a send-off or a welcome home, they were always there. And you're here in force today, and I want to thank you, all of you, for all that you do. Most of all, I want to thank the veterans and the men and women in uniform today. All of you and your families. Today is to honor your sacrifice. It is particularly to honor the sacrifice of those who make the ultimate sacrifice. But we can't forget, whether you served in wartime or in peacetime, when you signed up, when you put your name on the line, that was a commitment. That was a commitment to put your life on the line for all of us, and if necessary, to make the ultimate sacrifice. Every single one who served. And unfortunately, some made that ultimate sacrifice. And to those heroes, men and women, and to their families, the Gold Star families, we say thank you, and God bless you for a debt of service that we can never repay. But it's very important that we work hard to do that. And Governor Burgum talked about the state legislature and things that they did this. Tell you today that, we're here at this beautiful state veterans cemetery, but this summer we will be opening our federal veterans cemetery in Fargo. We were able to get funding and authorization, and it's under construction right now. And as of this summer, we will have a federal veterans cemetery as well in the state of North Dakota. And it's about time, isn't it, General? Admiral. And we're working hard with health care, too. We passed Veterans Choice. We're working to do more to support the institutional VA. We have an outstanding VA healthcare center in Fargo. We need to make sure that we have those VA clinics around. Also need to make sure that you have choice as well, that you can go to the hospital in your community or see the doctor in your community if you can't get to Fargo, or if you can't get the service you need at the CBOC in the community, at the Veterans Clinic in the community. And that's the idea with the Missions Act that we passed. You have access not only to that medical care, but to health care. So if you want to go to the Veterans Home in Lisbon, and we've got an outstanding Veterans Home there, you have that choice. But if you want to utilize or in-home care, we need to make sure those options are there and that the VA reimbursement is there as well. And another area very important, we're working on behalf of our veterans who may struggle with PTS or suicide or homelessness. And one of the new treatments is called hyperbaric oxygen treatment. We have a center now in Fargo, and we're going to make that a VA pilot program. So for veterans that feel that that can help them, maybe somebody struggling with one of these issues, whether it's PTS, whatever it is, that you can get that hyperbaric oxygen treatment in Fargo. And we'll have VA Secretary Wilkie out here this summer as we work to get that in place. For all of you, again, it's Memorial Day, we remember. But it's important that every day we remember all who served, all who sacrificed, and particularly those who made the ultimate sacrifice. May God bless all of you, all who served, all who made that sacrifice. May God bless their families, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hoeven. Our next speaker is the host of today's ceremony, the Adjutant General of the North Dakota National Guard, Major General L. Dorman.
Thanks, Sergeant Major. Just trying to adapt my speech. This is the first year where I have not been introduced with the distinguished guest, and I assume that's my gang sending a message to me that my speech was too long last year. So in my head, I'm redoing the whole speech right now, but it's an honor to share this day with you again. My wife Becky's here with 2 out of my 3 sons. One son missed movement. He may be in military school for his senior year of high school. That's the other thing I'm contemplating right now. But it's always a with you. Thanks for all our honor. General Officer Flag, I suppose I should say flag officers, for the last 2 or 3 years. Our Army and Air Force 2-star generals have been outranked by some who joined us most recently with Admiral Weisskopf coming to join us, but thank you, sir, for your presence. Thank you for our general officers for being with us here today. And most importantly, thanks to everyone for sharing this day with us today, a day to remember. You know you're in North Dakota when you leave an event at the Heritage Center that's full, and then you drive out to the Veterans Cemetery and traffic backs up at the Memorial Bridge. That's North Dakota. We remember. We're a small rural state that appreciates everything our military does, everything our veterans do, and will always remember those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Speakers have said remember sums up what this day is all about. On this day, but arguably every day, we must remember those that gave their life so that we could be a free people. In a recent article I read, it suggested on this weekend that instead of wishing somebody a nice weekend, we send them off with remember. And instead of bidding farewell or greeting them, having a nice Memorial Day, we just simply say remember. You know, last Monday in May be the unofficial start to summer. But for the folks here today, we know that it is first and foremost a day that we remember those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And it's okay to be with family. It's okay to be at the lake. It's okay to take time off. But we must always remember those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Those soldiers, those sailors, those Marines, those Coast Guardsmen that have answered the call. We must always remember our Gold Star families and their unimaginable pain, and for their grace and resilience. This morning when I walked into the Heritage Center, I had the honor and privilege, just by timing, to escort a Gold Star mother into that event. Today, when I arrived here, I had two Gold Star members come up, or two Gold Star mothers come up to give me a hug. I also had a Gold Star father approach me, but he knows my background and that I'm not a hugger, so he refrained from hugging me. But we did exchange a very firm handshake. So I appreciate that. I don't want you to be uncomfortable, nor do I want there. We have more Gold Star families here, but I have had the privilege of spending a lot of time with our Gold Star families over the last several years. And to witness the grace and resilience of this group of people is just amazing. I was asked recently, isn't that a difficult part of your job to tell somebody or extend condolences to somebody that they have lost a loved one in service to their country? I said, yes, but it's amazing how easy they make it on us in the military. Back in 2006, I attended the funeral of one of our guardsmen, and as I was extending my condolences, this mother who had just lost her son, before I could say a word, turned to me and said, "Thank you for your service." And it just set me back. I didn't know what to say in response to that, but in this, probably the most painful day, one of the most painful days of her life, she took the time to thank me for my service. In 2010, we lost a soldier when we were deployed to Kosovo. Died of natural causes over there, but when I called up his wife, again, to offer my condolences, before she really even accepted those, her first question to me was, how are Terry's squad members doing? How are Terry's friends and battle buddies doing? That's what these Gold Star families do for all of us, and what they also do for one another. When a new member joins this group, they reach out to them and they help them through that process. So again, it's always been an honor for me to be part of that group. I'm not part of the group, but I'm with the group. But I just want to thank them again publicly for their service, for their sacrifice, what they do for all of us, and most importantly, what they do for one another. If you join me in a round of applause for the Coast Guard guys. Also want to remember the friends, the battle buddies, the wingmen who may still be struggling because they lost a loved one in war. And this day, too, we want to remember our Vietnam veterans and remind ourselves of the lessons learned of that conflict. Remember that soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, Coast Guardsmen don't choose their wars. The wars choose the military member. That our service members don't set the policies or declare the wars, they just fight them. And then men and women off to war, and then back home debate the efficacy of what they're doing. They're doing their jobs, they're serving their country. At the end of the day, our Vietnam veterans, like all veterans, answered the call. They left home and served with honor and distinction. During Vietnam, we lost 58,000 soldiers, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and sailors. We already talked about the missing in action. We still have 8 missing in action from the state of North Dakota from that conflict. But I'm convinced we've learned the lessons of Vietnam, and I believe it is our Vietnam veterans who have led us through that process to where we are today. Led us to a time where we can honor our fallen, where we honor their service, we honor their sacrifice, and we honor their courage. To all the fallen, to your families, know that through our presence here today, you are not forgotten. And I will end today as I began, with one word: remember. Thank you.
Thank you, General Dorman. Our keynote speaker is next, retired Brigadier. General Dorman's bio is in the program, but I'd like to highlight a couple items. Considering our General Palmer, while assigned to Thailand, B-52 Stratospheric, their mission over Vietnam. Without a break in service, he left the U.S. Air Force and joined the North Dakota Air Guard in 1981 as a maintenance officer and supervisor. General Palmer served in many key positions with the Happy Hooligans, culminating his service as Chief of Staff for the North Dakota Air National Guard. Nearly 4 decades of service. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce General Ellen Palmer.
I told you to tell them that I could walk on water and part the Red Sea as well. You left that out. You know? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's ceremony, and it's truly, truly my honor to be here on this special day to honor our veterans that paid the ultimate sacrifice in support of this great country of ours. Governor Burgum, thank you for being here, sir. The governor has started an effort to make North Dakota to take a look at what we're doing now and how we can make it better. So, thank you so much. Here today, and thanks for the support of our veterans, both in the state of North Dakota and across the entire country. Washington, D.C. needs your strong leadership right now more than ever. So thank you, sir. And General Dorman, he's a tough act to follow, you know? He's a really good public speaker, a little bit taller than me, sir, thank you for being here today, and thanks for your outstanding leadership of the North Dakota National Guard. You know, however, the real VIPs are sitting out here in the audience. If you're able, would all veterans, active duty, Guard and Reserve, please stand so that we can give you a round of applause? course, there's some other very important VIPs that are probably more important than the ones that just stood. And that's the family members of our veterans, active duty, Guard, and Reserve. If able, would you please stand so we can give you a round of applause as well. You know, in public speaking, they say you should stand up to be recognized and sit down to be appreciated. So this is going to be short. My plan is not to tell you a speech, because you know what? You're not going to remember that speech. Next week, you will not remember my name, much less what I said here today. So I'm going to tell stories. And John, one of the stories, thank you for sharing your story here today. Thank you for the hat. 3 Purple Heart winner from the Vietnam War. So thanks, John. Greatly appreciate it. I had the opportunity to get a cup of coffee in there and get a little warm, and I was talking to Jim, and I don't remember Jim's last name, but he was telling me his story about Vietnam, and he was on the tarmac at Saigon when our POWs came home, and he stood guard over them since he was in the security forces over there. So Jim, wherever you're at, thank you for sharing your story with me today. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to tell a story about 3 young men who went off to war in Vietnam from a little town called Tell City in southern Indiana. 2 of them got one-way tickets. 1 came home, but he was different when he came back. And I like to remember those people and because they were my friends. My purpose is not to bring back bad memories. You know, as we grow older in life and our hair turns a little gray, we find out that we're probably more alike than we are not. And as we get older, we tend to remember the good things in life, not necessarily the bad. So the point of my story is not to bring back any sad or bad memories, but to bring back good memories of the times that you spent together. If I get a little emotional, please bear with me. Some of these things are a little hard to talk about. I was in D.C. last week, and I went to the wall, and I found the names of Herbie Noble and Dennis Riley. And what do you do at the wall? You find their names, and you touch their names to remember them. And that's what I did. You know, we were friends growing up in grade school and high school, and in southern Indiana, they divided students into Class A, which is the very smart students, Class B, which is the smart students, and then Class C, which that's the rest of us. And you know, Herbie, Dennis, Gary, and I, we were not in Class A or Class B. Perhaps, just perhaps, we spent too much time at the pool hall and too much time dragging Main Street in a small town in southern Indiana. Herbie and Dennis joined the Marines, Gary joined the Army, and I joined the Air Force. The first to pass away was James Herbie Noble. He was born in October 31st, 1950 on Halloween. He died in a friendly fire accident October 5th of 1969, just a few days before his 19th birthday. He'd been in country less than 2 months. He was small in stature, had black curly hair, and wore those black glasses, you know, frame glasses that we all seemed to wear back then. That was all they made. But he was a nice guy. If we looked at him today, we'd probably say he looked a little nerdy, but he wasn't. We weren't that smart. He was a nice young man, and I wanted you to remember him today. The second person that got a one-way ticket was Dennis Harlem Riley. Dennis died on March 5th of 1970. He was the point man on patrol. And I know that just because I know his brother, and he was telling me about how Dennis died. Dennis would have had graduated from high school in May of that year if he had stayed in, but he didn't. He dropped out and joined the Marines. He was a tall, lanky guy, really good looking, and he always seemed to have a smile on his face, and I'll miss him. You know, Herbie and Dennis, you both sacrificed your lives for our freedom. May you both rest in peace in the hands of God. Somebody smile at me. Tell a joke or something. Gary Miller was the third to lose his life, but he didn't lose it in the war. He succumbed to wounds from the battle that he was in. We probably got into more trouble than we should. Just the Army and going off to Vietnam. In his first combat engagement, he was shot in the stomach. Finished out the engagement. At the end, he figured he couldn't walk. He was paralyzed. He came back to Tell City, and he lived his life as best he could. You know, for a person that was paralyzed, he hunted from a four-wheel ATV, and it didn't make any difference what he hunted, whether it was ducks, geese, deer, rabbits, or squirrels. He did as best he could to make his life as normal as possible. He loved to play cards at the bar. He was really good at pinochle and euchre. I lost $43 to him before I went overseas. I thought Peg was going to shoot me. But he played the cards that he was dealt in life very well. He made his life as normal as possible. He died in 2012 at age 60 because of the wounds that he had suffered in Vietnam. Herbie and Dennis are remembered every year on Memorial Day and Sergeant Fest. I just saw on Facebook from Tell City where they had the crosses out and their names there. They've done that for as long as I can remember, and they'll do it for the next 50 years. So they lost both their lives. They lost the life that lives that day. So, but they will be remembered. Gary will live in my memories as long as I live. Remembering to have. Remember the young kid that always beat me in basketball. I'll leave you with a Ronald Reagan quote that I found very helpful to me. Some people live their entire lifetime and wonder if they ever made a difference. A veteran doesn't have that problem. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for attending today. God bless everyone here today, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
General Palmer, on behalf of our fallen military heroes and our Gold Star families, thank you for your remarks and thank you for your service. At this time, in honor of the fallen, the North Dakota National Guard's 188th Army Band Quintet, Full Battle Rattle, will perform Hymn to the Fallen. Thank you, 188th Army Band. I just want to say one more thank you to all of our veterans for your dedicated service and sacrifice to our country. A grateful nation will never forget you and all that you have done in defense of our freedom. The bugle has been an integral part of the American military history and tradition. The sound of bugles have awakened our troops in the morning, summoned them to dinner and the paymaster. Bugles have signaled charge and announced end of the duty day. Of all the military bugle calls, none is so easily recognized or more apt to render emotion than the sounding of taps. The melody is eloquent, stirring, and haunting. When you visit Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, a military ritual occurs that is both familiar and moving. A firing party comes to attention and fires 3 volleys. After the briefest moments, a bugler sounds the 24 notes of America's most famous bugle call. Both actions signal the highest honors in memory of our nation's fallen warriors. Today, taps will be rendered immediately after the rifle salute by Mr. Harrison Fuller. It is appropriate for all military members and veterans to render hand salutes during the playing of taps. Today's rifle volleys will be fired by the members of the American Legion Gilbert S. Furnace Post 40 and Veterans of Foreign Wars Harry L. Kidd Post 707 Mandan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are able, please rise and remain standing through the end of the ceremony. Veterans, take charge of the rifle squad. Each Memorial Day, our national flag is displayed at half-staff beginning at dawn. At the conclusion of that 21-gun rifle salute, all flags are... Today, we have delayed this honor in order to close this year's Memorial Day ceremony in this manner. Under the leadership of our State Command Sergeant Major David Lean, the Military Funeral Honors will fire 21 cannon salute using World War I era French 75mm cannon. After the volley, the flags behind me at the Flag Plaza, as well as the 50 U.S. flags in the avenue of flags on both sides of the cemetery, will be raised to full staff by our military veterans. Please direct your attention to the area west of here for the firing of the cannon. Sergeant Major, take charge of the cannon crew. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn and face the plaza at the center of the cemetery as the national and state colors are raised to full staff. Military members and veterans, present arms. Military members and veterans, order arms. On this and every Memorial Day, we must never forget the meaning of Memorial Day and remember those proud patriots and their services in defense of our liberty's blessings. Please consider observing a moment of silence at 3 p.m. today. This national moment of remembrance may be observed informally wherever you are. At this time, Chaplain Dallas Herbal of the North Dakota Air National Guard will render the closing prayer.
I invite everyone to join with me in the prayer. Lord, today we have taken a moment to reflect on a long and mighty work, the defending of our nation, liberty, and the cause of justice. And love this has required. We ask that you bless the memories of all those we remembered here today, and that you grant us the continued ability to face the challenges of our times head on. For what does it profit us to gain a life unchallenged by dedication, commitment, and our country's legacy, if we lose our liberty, surrender our values, or go back on our integrity? Bless our every effort toward peace. Renew in us our commitment to the common good. Lift us up, not just in spirit, but in word, deed, and thought, so that we may live the kind of life those who have gone before us and inspires those who are yet to come. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Thanks again to everyone who participated in today's ceremony. Before we retire the colors to conclude today's Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony, I'd like to again remind you to closely inspect the beautiful 164th Infantry Regiment Memorial, as well as the superb Prisoner of War Missing in Action Memorial on its right. And please consider visiting Abraham Lincoln State Park, which features free tours today to military members, veterans, and their families in honor of the Military Appreciation Day. Please continue to stand as we retire the colors. Color Guard Commanders, retire the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's Memorial Day ceremony. Thank you for your attendance. Please wait a few minutes until most of the motorcycles have exited the grounds. This will allow traffic to flow with ease. The shuttle vans are ready to deliver you to the parking lots to the west of the parking lot. Please drive safely and have a great day.